Have you ever caught a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and thought, does all of this, actually say something about who I am on the inside? It's a really old idea, but is there anything to it?
That very question, it's fascinated people for literally centuries. And it's led to some pretty surprising and honestly controversial answers. So today, we're going to dive into two of the biggest, most influential ideas out there. Let's get right into it. All right, so first up, we're taking a trip back to the early 20th century. We're going to look at this really bold and, yeah, pretty controversial now theory that tried to do exactly that, to literally map out your personality based on your physical body.
So let me introduce you to a guy named Ernst Kretschmer. He was a German psychiatrist, and he spent years, years, in psychiatric hospitals just meticulously observing thousands and thousands of patients. You could say he was on a mission, really. He wanted to find a concrete, tangible link between their bodies and their minds.
And the name he gave his theory? Constitutional psychology. The core idea is actually pretty straightforward. He basically thought, hey, what if the same biological stuff that builds our bodies also builds our personalities? It's a fascinating thought for sure, but as you're about to see, it's also a deeply controversial one.
Okay, so what did all this observation lead to? Well, Kretschmer came up with 4 distinct body types, and he believed that each one came with its own unique personality profile and even a tendency towards certain mental health conditions.
First up, we have what he called the Pycnic type. Think rounded, kind of stocky. In Kretschmer's view, these were your sociable, warm, emotionally expressive people. He gave their temperament a name, cyclothemic, which basically just means their moods tend to swing a bit, from happy to sad. And in the most extreme cases, he even linked this body type to manic depressive disorders.
Next, you've got the asthenic type. These are the tall, thin, more linear folks, and they're pretty much the opposite of the picnic type. Kretschmer saw them as more introverted, serious, and intellectual. He called their temperament schizothomic, which describes someone who's maybe a little more emotionally distant, more into abstract ideas, and yeah, he connected this type with a higher chance of developing schizophrenia.
Then there's the athletic type, which is pretty much what it sounds like, muscular, well-proportioned, strong build. Kretschmer saw these people as the balanced achievers, steady, reliable, with really good emotional control. And what's super interesting is that he found this group actually had the lowest rates of severe psychiatric disorders.
And finally, there's the dysplastic type. This was basically his catch-all category, right? For anyone whose body didn't neatly fit into those other 3 boxes. And maybe not surprisingly, he found their personalities were just as hard to predict. He also linked this group to higher rates of a bunch of different psychiatric conditions. Okay, so that's one whole world of thought. Now, let's just completely shift gears. We're going to leave 20th century Germany behind and travel all the way to ancient India for a totally different and much, much older way of looking at personality. At the very heart of the ancient Indian approach is this concept called swabhava, which you can think of as the essence of the self. Now, this is a huge departure from Kretschmer's ideas, because here, personality isn't some fixed thing you're stuck with. It's seen as a dynamic journey, a path of self-realization. The whole point isn't to put you in a box, it's to help you grow and transform. So instead of these rigid body types, this tradition talks about 3 gunas, which are like fundamental qualities or attributes. And here's the absolute key difference. These are not boxes to categorize people. The gunas are thought of as energies that exist inside every single one of us, just in different combinations. And it's that unique balance that creates our personal temperament. So what are these 3 gunas? Well, first you have Sattva. That's the quality of goodness, wisdom, and harmony. Just picture a calm, clear, balanced mind. Then you've got Rajas, which is all about passion, action, and energy. It's that fire, that drive that makes you go out and get things done. And finally, there's Tamas. This is the quality of inertia, darkness, or inaction. So from this point of view, the whole journey of personal growth is about consciously trying to cultivate more sattva in your life, more of that balance and harmony. Now, the mind-body connection is still super important here, but it's looked at in a much more holistic way. In Ayurveda, which is the traditional Indian system of medicine, you have the 3 doshas. Think of these as your personal constitution, tied to the elements of nature, and they influence both your physical health and your temperament. And you might even recognize some of these in yourself or people you know, right? There's Vata, that's air and sky, creative, energetic, maybe a bit restless. Then Pitta, fire and water, ambitious, smart, but can be irritable. And Kapha, water and earth, calm, loyal, but maybe a little resistant to change.
So there you have it, two profoundly different worlds when it comes to personality. Let's actually put them side by side and see how they really compare, head to head.
And this comparison, man, it really gets to the heart of the conflict, doesn't it? On one hand, you have Kretschmer's theory, which is all about biological determinism. Your body decides who you are, and his goal is to classify and predict. Then you have the Indian approach, which is rooted in this holistic spiritual philosophy, where the goal is self-realization and transformation. So one view says your personality is pretty much fixed by your body, while the other says, no way, it's a dynamic journey that you can consciously shape.
So where does this leave us today? What can we really take away from these two clashing worlds of thought? Let's take a look at their legacies, both the good and the bad. Let's be clear about Kretschmer's theory. Today, modern science just doesn't buy it. Study after study has shown that the correlation between your body type and your personality is, well, it's incredibly weak if it exists at all. The theory is seen as really reductionist. It just oversimplifies how complex we are. And honestly, it really reflects the cultural biases and social stereotypes of its time. But that's not to say his work was totally useless. In a way, he was actually ahead of his time. He was one of the early voices really emphasizing that biology plays a role in psychology. And that idea went on to influence huge modern fields like biopsychology and behavioral genetics. Plus, his dedication to systematic, empirical observation that helped push the entire field of psychology to be more scientific and evidence-based. So you got to give him credit for that.
And what about the Indian approach? Well, its legacy is arguably more alive and vibrant today than ever before. That holistic view, integrating mind, body, and spirit, it just really resonates with people now. Think about it. Concepts like the gunas and the doshas are the philosophical backbone for massive practices like yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda. Millions of people around the world use these tools every single day for managing stress and for their own personal growth. So that brings us right back to where we started, to that big question. Is our personality a biological blueprint, something we're just born with? Or is it a spiritual journey, something that we can consciously shape and transform throughout our lives? Maybe the real answer isn't choosing one over the other. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in the space between, in how these two powerful ideas dance together. What do you think?